I feel like when you hit a randomly this week, I think about being 50 a lot, apparently. But I was thinking about this week, and I was thinking I remember my grandfather's 50th birthday. And I remember being a little kid and thinking, wow, 50, like that's old. And now it's like, I don't know, maybe I'll feel that way when I get to 60. I don't feel old. It's just those constant reminders of how long you've been on Earth are a little bit disconcerting sometimes.
Well, and you start hearing the thing that started getting me in my 50s, and when I started doing the man of a certain age stress, is you start evaluating what did I do with the first 50? And because in reality, I'm not a doomsdayer or anything like that, but there's a slight chance in hell that I got another 50. You know what I mean?
Pretty good chance.
That I don't.
Better than average chance that you have another 50.
Well, even if I do.
Right.
The reality is 30 to 40 if I'm lucky, and I'm really concentrating on taking care of myself now. That's one thing I've done in my 50s is what I should have done in my 30s. That whole eat right and exercise thing. Turns out that's a real deal.
Who knew?
Who knew? But it's like I try not to allow myself, but you do kind of get, I'll call it depressed in a way, not to compare to other people's or anybody's depression, but you start doing how many summers do I have left?
Yeah.
How many times me and two best friends get together every year for our birthdays? We're all born 7 days apart in February. And it occurred to me this year, how many more of these dinners are we going to have?
Right.
And it's like, not to bring people down, but that's real things you need to start thinking about. We need to start cherishing everything. And like you said, I slept wrong. I got to take half a day off today.
Yeah, and those half days that you take off, you're like, I don't have a lot of days.
Exactly.
And I know that I do have a lot of days, right?
Of course.
But at the same time, I don't have as many days as I had when I was 20. When I was 30.
Right.
And that's the time of your life when you do the dumb stuff because you think you're invincible. And actually, that's what's going to set you up to not be invincible when you're 50.
Yeah.
Kids don't realize that, right?
Yep.
Your consequences for the things you do when you're 20 don't always hit you when you're 20 or even 30. They start hitting you when you're 40, 50. Listen,
50. Yep.
My acid reflux was bad from the time I was 20 years old until the time I was about 35, 36. It was utterly unmanageable. And then it came and went on a regular basis from then. I didn't ever take care of it. I never did the right thing. I never went to the doctor. I never had myself looked at. And then I ended up with cancer, right? Now, did I end up with cancer in my 40s because I did something in my 40s? No, I ended up with cancer in my 40s for stuff I didn't do in my 20s and 30s, right? When I thought I was invincible, when nothing actually mattered, when it was not a big deal.
Yeah, just rub some dirt on it.
Yeah, guess what? Everything's a big deal. Everything's important.
Yeah. So with all these, I mean, we could still, we could do the old man talk, but
I don't mind doing the old man talk once in a while.
No, me either. Absolutely. I mean, it's what I got now. But is there something you do to combat these intrusive thoughts? Like, how do you deal with when you're starting to get down about your age and everything? Like, do you exercise? Do you go for a walk? Do you talk to your wife? Like, I'm in therapy. Multiple kinds of it.
For me, I think what I'm not doing anymore. It's more of what I'm not doing than what I am. And what I'm not doing anymore is keeping things bottled up inside and just not living a version of myself that makes me happy. Whatever that is, however that presents itself.
Whatever the day is.
Whatever feels like something I should be living, talking, enjoying. I'm just doing it now. You're either along for the ride with me or you're not. And if you're not, I have no hard feelings about it, but I'm not slowing down. I'm not stopping.
Yeah, you've got a lot.
Kat and I have had a lot of conversations about a lot of really heavy shit over the last 6 or 7 months, and we're probably in the best place we've been ever as a couple. Definitely in the best place we have ever been as a married couple. And there's a lot of stuff that we talked about. And we're not going to get into it in this episode, but there's a lot of stuff that we talked about that, I've never said some of the stuff I've said to her ever.
To another person?
To another human. Like,
wow.
there are things that I've said to her and told her and just don't want to keep it inside anymore that I've never actually said. Like, hearing the words coming out of my own mouth was weird, and to me, I feel like that's what you get when you hit this age, right? You stop wanting to be everything that everybody else wants you to be. And I used to have a thing on my wall, and it used to say, you can't be anything for everyone until you're something for yourself.
Ooh, that's good.
And I've started to really live by that, because something for yourself doesn't always mean you're always like pampering yourself, spoiling yourself, doing that, like being reckless about taking care, doing things for yourself at the expense of others. But it does mean protecting your mental health a lot. And protecting my mental health meant stop bottling everything up, stop keeping it inside. Like, if you have things going on, you can talk about this. For the first time in my life, and again, Kat and I have talked about this a lot, I feel comfortable enough with my partner where I can tell her anything. I know at this point in my life, I can tell Kathy anything.
Yeah.
Anything.
I wish I understand that. I don't, not the same situation, but I understand what you're saying. And it is and sometimes even that concept makes me sad, because I see other couples, young couples. I was a young couple at one, and I'm like, God, if they could get that now, they would have such an amazing life.
There's so many situations where it's like, if y'all would just talk to each other, like literally, if y'all would just talk to each other, because that's really all it is. Most of the time, it's like talking. There were a couple of things I told Kat, and I actually told her, months before I told her what I was talking about, I actually said to her, I was like, I just can't talk about this right now. I cannot ever talk about this. And maybe one day that'll change. And then one day it did. And you know what it was? Nothing.
Yeah.
It ended up being nothing, right? It was a stress that I was carrying constantly every single day. There have been so many of those recently. And I can genuinely tell you that part of hitting that age, you can't hold on to that stuff at our age.
No.
You just can't, right? You and I, I'm 50, you're 57. Kat's going to turn 50 this year. You can only manage so much on your own. And I think that the biggest problem is people like us. There are people who just dump their problems on everybody, and it's like, here's my problems, here's my problems, here's my problems. Hey, you want to hear about my problems? I got my problems.
You deal with it. Yeah.
I am the guy who wants to help you with your problems, but then will not talk about my own. Like, I'm really bad at talking about my own problems. Like, I have this problem. I still have this problem. I keep it up here forever until I can organize it in a way that makes me comfortable talking about it.
Same. I actually, now I can joke about it. I say, listen, I'm very good at do as I say, not as I do. I have great advice that I never listen to.
It's true. But we all do. We all do, right? And it's because we've been through some stuff. Like I watch a lot of YouTube. Kathy watches with me. I'm never going to say Kathy watches a lot of YouTube. She doesn't. She watches what I watch. And we watch a lot of young people talking about stuff. And it's like, you guys really just have no idea. Like, you have no idea. I'll give you a real good example. I work in a company. I work in a largish company. And, I have a team. I have a team of a couple of people under me, but then I also co-manage a larger team. And I have heard some things come out of those young people's mouth where I just go, there's no way, you guys, like, you just don't know what's out there in the world. There are so many people who will say something like, yeah, this company is bullshit. Like, I don't want to deal with it anymore. And I'm like, I get it. Sometimes things aren't fair, right? I'm not saying just suck it up and deal. What I am saying is it's no better elsewhere. And I can tell you that because I've worked elsewhere. This is your first corporate job. You're not really accustomed to dealing with this sort of thing. And that's the perspective that we gain as we get older.
Exactly. This is, we're both in New York State for
Mhm.
those listening. And a lot of people, and you see it in the news, the press spins it so bad that New York and California are the worst places on the planet to live. Well, by the same token, I've lived in a few other states and been to many other countries. And you know what? Wherever you go, there you are. So if you're having problems here, you're going to have problems there.
Yes.
And yeah, they might not have this tax in Kansas, but they have another fee that isn't in New York,
Yeah.
or wage disparity or housing disparity. So my point is, where the experience can show us that, oh, it's not that bad. It sucks today, but it's not that bad. I don't want to get too far away from where you started a few minutes ago. It's very important. I learned this in therapy, and I play a doctor on Instagram. There's a big difference between the thoughts you have in your head and when you verbalize them to someone you trust,
Mhm.
your wife, your partner, whatever that may be. When you're in a safe space, I hate those terms, but when you're in a comfortable area that you can be honest with someone, whoever that is, and you say these things out loud, your brain processes them much differently than if you just sit with a cup of coffee and think about your thoughts.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
Well-
So it's important to have that confidence, whether it's a parent or a best friend or a therapist or your partner, whatever it is. Like you said, you don't want to just mouth vomit on people and expect them to deal with your issues, because another fair point is whoever you're talking to, they have problems too.
They sure do. They sure do. There's it's funny because therapy is. I believe in therapy. I do. I also don't believe that you need to be in therapy from the day you're born till the day you die. My therapist, when I was going to her regularly, told me once that it's not her job to treat me forever. It's her job to treat me so I can move on. Right?
That's nice.
She wanted
Yeah.
me, and the last time I saw her after, because we moved to. I was going once a week, then I was going every other week, and then I was going once a month. And after a couple of once a month, she goes, I think you've graduated. I don't think you need, she goes, you have the tools you need to handle. And if something else comes up, I'm always here. You can make a phone call and we'll have an appointment. She goes, but this isn't something you need to do for the rest of your life. And then I started, recently, I got really into something that I see a lot, and it's called therapy speak, where people start using therapeutic terms. You don't have some rough issues in your past. You have trauma, you have PTSD, you have all these people that have literally gone through nothing in their life but waking up in the morning, going to school, maybe going to a shitty retail job. It's like, I have trauma. This is my trauma. You don't have trauma because you go to work every day. We all go to work every day. You don't have all these things going on that you say are going on. You don't have them going on, but therapy speak has become such a thing with people where they are analyzing everybody. You see people use the term narcissist. The word narcissist is so overused, it doesn't even have a meaning anymore. Everyone's a narcissist. If you were to watch TikTok today, I guarantee every person talking about relationships and their ex whoever is talking about how that person is a narcissist. Every single person is abusive. Every single person is this. Every single person is that. And the reason is we've created a climate where people ruminate on their issues all day long. And they go to therapy. I dated someone who was going to therapy 3 times a week.
Wow. Yeah.
Now,
Yeah.
I'm not saying you don't need it. I'm saying if you've been going to therapy 3 days a week for years, you might need to rethink if therapy is what you actually need. I'm not an expert. I'm not. Maybe that is what she needed, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But 3 days a week is extensive therapy to still have the issues that are forcing you to go to therapy 3 days a week.
Well, and and again, I'm not a therapist, but there's I know it's not a therapeutic term, but it's a process. For example, one of my loved ones was a pretty abusive alcoholic. Was always gone. If he wasn't at work, he was in a bar, for years and years and years. And then he, for whatever reason, maybe we'll have him as a guest someday. For whatever reason, he decided this is not the way to live. I'm going to sober up. He started going to AA.
Mhm.
Well, you know what? He spent 40 plus years going to 3 to 5 AA meetings a month. He still wasn't in my life. He still didn't come home. But publicly, he was doing such a great job.
Oh, he's amazing publicly.
Yeah, and I'm proud of him that he's sober. I'd rather
Mhm.
have him sober and here than dead 40 years ago.
Of course.
You know, but they kind of, I see people, and again, I'm a believer in my own, faith and all that kind of stuff, but I see people replace bad habits with church.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? They just go from one vice to they use church as another vice.
Mhm.
And all of a sudden they're in church every day, volunteering and all this kind of stuff. And there's nothing wrong with any of that, but the motivation behind it to this person you're talking about, she went from problems to
Mhm.
therapy and probably didn't deal with the reasons in between.
No, and that's where when you're looking for a therapist, if there's a lot of types of therapy out there. There's a lot of therapists approach issues differently. One of the ways that my therapist does is cognitive behavioral therapy. Oh man, I feel like my whole town is burning down.
I was
over
going to
here.
say, are you having a problem?
Jeez. It's amazing. This is a small town, so
Also New York.
there's like 1,900 people in my entire village.
And all of them are on a fire truck.
Yeah, really. All right, well, that's the last one. That was the second alarm, by the way. So
That's close. Yeah, that's a big one.
He literally went right past me. Cognitive behavioral therapy, I think, is what most people probably need, because what it does, it teaches you to recognize the triggers, which most people are good at. Most people know what triggers them.
Mhm.
But it also teaches you to learn your behaviors. It learns what you're doing. And it's one of the few, as far as I can see, and I'm not an expert, I've not studied this at length, but I do know I have read about CBT a lot. One of the things that it does is it teaches you to handle the behaviors before they trigger you and become problems. And one of the things that worked for me out of therapy was there were a couple of things that I just naturally was inclined to do. One of them, I'll give you a good example. One of them was black and white thinking, right? Something is either amazing or destructive. Like it's either this is the best thing ever or the worst thing ever. When reality is most things are kind of in the middle somewhere. Even if they lean in one direction or the other, they are in the middle. My big problem was, one of my biggest problems was black and white thinking, where something is either going to be great or a complete and total disaster, when in reality, most things don't work out that way. And she taught me really well to recognize when I was landing on either of those extreme ends of the spectrum. And it really did change me. It really did change me. Like I've calmed down on that a lot. I still do it a lot, but it's not the vice that it used to be for me. And I feel like
yourself.
And that's what I got out of therapy, where I was like, oh no, I understand what I'm doing here, and a lot of people never get to the point in therapy where they understand what they're doing or even why they're doing it. They just know, I have a problem. I need to talk to this person. And when I talk to this person, I feel better.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's not therapy. You could do that with your cat. You can literally have that conversation with your cat. Because sometimes, listen, talking about stuff helps. I know it does. And, this is why, I have taken to, and I'm not ashamed to admit it, I've taken to using ChatGPT a lot for stuff like that, mostly to organize my thoughts. I'm not expecting ChatGPT to be a therapist, but I realize that most of the time I don't really need a therapist. I need a way to organize my thoughts so that I understand them better. And ChatGPT, for all its faults and flaws, is really good at giving you insights. It's really good, like shockingly good. It's directed me in certain ways that I never would have directed myself without assistance.
I had a boss out in Kansas, and it'll be a common thread through this podcast because it is in my life. This man was very, very intuitive, very smart man. He didn't say a lot, but when he spoke, you remember it. And it's all, I can't say it. By the way, I have new teeth. So if I'm tripping over them, forgive me. They're they're a week old. Colloquialisms. They're just sayings he just drops here and there. Some of them are silly. Like he'd make a mistake, or somebody would make a mistake and he'd be like, "Oh, you let your skimmer leak on that one." But one of his favorite things, and it's kind of are we good?
Yeah, we're fine.
Okay.
For those of you watching,
sorry.
That's fine. No, for those of you watching, I took a drink and muted my mic, and now it's got a new audio track. It's fine.
Oh God, there we are.
Yeah.
So one of the things that he always said, and you're kind of talking about it, or I'm identifying it as you're talking about it with ChatGTP, is sometimes you just need a checkup from the neck up.
Mm-hmm.
It just kind of aligns all the things that are already in there. You just need help stacking them up. So it's not that you're dependent on AI or a therapist or my for those of you that don't know, and we can talk about it someday if we need to, if there's questions. I am a veteran, and my first therapy. Well, first of all, I fought therapy for 30 years. There's nothing wrong with me. There's nothing wrong with me.
Gee, if only that was like a Marine stereotype or something.
Did I say I was a Marine? I am a former Marine. Yes. And I had finally, after 30 years of dealing with it myself, I had succumbed to a lot of negative thoughts and extreme anger issues. I talked to my psychiatrist for 3 hours, and he said, "You have PTSD. And I'm like, no. I didn't have a mom that didn't get me a video game, or I didn't get put in timeout. Because all the PTSD stuff I thought I was used to hearing was the therapy speak.
Mm-hmm.
And again, I'm not shooting anybody's mental condition down, and I'm not comparing, because I don't think there's a mine's worse than yours type thing. I think years ago I cut the tip of my finger off. And I was like, not ashamed, but I was like, this isn't, this is the tip of my finger. I have friends with no legs.
Right.
And I had a guy with literally no freaking legs. Battle trauma. Like, this guy has been through it. Okay. And he goes, "Al, is that the worst thing that's ever happened to you as far as limb loss?" And I'm like, "Yeah." He goes, "So is me losing my legs." And I was like, "What?"
That's the perspective.
I said, "Your injury's far worse than..." I said, "Why?" He goes, "Why? This is my 100%. He goes, "This is your 100%. Sorry. Are we that podcast? Now, I am not like, "Oh yeah, he lost his legs. That's the same as me losing my finger." It's not comparing the injury. It's comparing the mental.
Of course.
This is the worst thing that's happened to me. I mean, it's not, but as far as limb loss.
It was the same thing I went through with cancer, right? Did I have a cancer? Listen, 5-year survival rate for my cancer is 15%. I'm not pulling any punches. I was in danger of dying. But I'm watching a friend right now going through stage 4 colorectal cancer, and she's already accepted the fact that she will not make it to the end of this year. And just like the magnitude of having to admit that to yourself, does that make my struggle not valid? No.
Not at all.
Is it perspective? Maybe to a degree it is, right?
Of course.
But, that's the worst thing I've ever been through. Well, that's the worst thing she's ever gone through. And that's the worst thing this person's ever gone through. I think where it becomes a problem when it's constantly like the worst thing you've ever been through, and we never stop talking about it.
Exactly.
We never pass it. And I'm not saying get over it. Get over it is not the answer, right? Rub dirt in it, walk on. That's how kids in Little League did things in the 80s, right?
Sure. But you do need to process it.
But at some point, you have to collect all those feelings and do something productive with them, rather than just keep having them over and over again, rehashing them over and over again, reliving them over and over again, because that's when you start having trouble.
Right. My psychiatrist, I was with him for 3 years. And are you good? Like, do you need to evacuate?
I have no idea what's going on.
Yeah, really. If it starts getting warm, Vincent's going to leave.
Yeah, really. Jeez.
I was with my psychiatrist for 3 years, and then he moved me to a group,
Mm-hmm.
which is we meet once a week, and it's 7 or 8 of us, and we just literally, they don't call it, but I look at it as my checkup from the neck up. Once a week, I evaluate how things are going.
Mm-hmm.
I see how my buddies are doing. But it's not therapy anymore. It's just we're all like-minded, similar experienced people. Again, the reason you want to talk to somebody who understands you, who maybe has been through the same things, or is living the same life or something like that, whether it be a friend, a partner, or whatever, and that's a key too. I shouldn't say don't. We should have a disclaimer. We're not therapists. We're not
We are not
doctors,
therapists.
even if we play them on TV.
But
like,
we're in your YouTubes. That automatically means our advice should be discounted. But go ahead.
Thank you. Very good. Very good. I literally told somebody on Facebook losing their mind this week, hey, buddy, step back and take a breath. This is freaking Facebook.
Right. It's not that deep.
But it is very important to share information with people who understand the information you're sharing.
Yes. And are receptive to what you're sharing. I mean, just because you're giving good information doesn't mean the person getting it understands what to do with it or that they are willing to hear it. Sometimes you have great advice that people just don't listen to.
Yeah. My wife is absolutely, you've met her, and can attest, my wife is absolutely my best friend. We do everything together to the point that I've literally, back to a man of a certain age, I have literally, we'll get stressed about finances or, payments on something and what are we going to do about this or that in the house? And if it starts affecting the relationship, like we start having animosity to each other, I've literally looked at her and said, I will set a freaking match to all of this and go become a Walmart greeter. And we can live in a 1-bedroom, low-income apartment somewhere as long as I'm with you. Now, do I like the stuff we have? Absolutely. Do I want more? Yeah, absolutely. But if it's without her, none of it means anything.
Of course.
But in my experience, in some of the stresses I even hate to use the word PTSD. I still fight it. I've literally been diagnosed, I'm on disability because of, but there's things I can't tell her, not because I don't want her to know, but she has no frame of reference to even handle that information. So my best friend in the world, I can't talk to about deeper, older problems,
right.
Marriage problems and stuff like that. We sit on the back porch every night if it's nice out and, how'd the day go? What are we doing? How are things rolling? And then we have a drink, a gummy, and listen to music.
The hard part is when something you've been kind of keeping down bubbles up out of nowhere. And it's like, at the same time, you have to deal with it. You have to bring your partner along to deal with it as well. And I'm really bad at that. I readily admit I'm bad at it because I am the guy who I have to sort it out before I can deal with it with somebody else. I can't just take the whole thing, drop it in your lap and say, let's solve this together. I don't work that way. I'll never work that way. And I'm not capable of working that way.
Yeah.
And that has caused a considerable amount of friction between Kathy and I. Because I'm not very good at concealing when I'm trying to deal with something. Yes. And at the same time, I'm also not willing to go, everything's fine. Everything's fine. Because it's not. Sometimes it's not. Sometimes it's like, no, I am dealing with some shit. I'm trying to figure some stuff out. We can talk about it, but I have to figure it out for me before I can bring it to you. Because if I don't understand it, I'm not going to try to present it to you.
Yeah. And let me say, Miss Cat, I'm assuming you're going to watch this eventually someday. On advice of a psychiatrist, I was encouraged to share some things with my wife. And let me tell you, she was not ready for that. And you can't unsay it. I still to this day am heartbroken. Like that's something, the information I revealed to her was my past experiences, a past experience. And you can't unring that bell. and that is damaged. Like, I feel responsible for damaging a part of her mind that I can't ever fix. So I understand completely when you say you need to organize it and get it, because you can't walk into a room with a handful of nails and just sling them.
Right.
You know, you've got to line them all up and put them in a box, and this is a box of nails, you know.
And in fairness, I mean, in the last couple of months, those 6 months, you know, I mean, Kathy found out that I was outed in 2013 against all sanity of the rules of friendship. My friend outed me, which I wasn't thrilled about. She found out all about this gender stuff that's been going on with me this year. She's found out, you know, stuff about my prior marriage that I've never told anyone, you know. So in my mind, I'm always thinking like, geez, am I able to bring this out in a way that's not going to just pile on to that? And the truth is, I feel like I can.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like I can.
You've organized it then. You've processed it, you know.
We've had a lot of discussions about a lot of stuff
Mm-hmm.
like that where I've gone, oh my God, I don't know how I'm going to talk about this. And then you know what the answer was? Just talk about it.
Yeah.
You know what?
Yeah.
It sucked. It was hard. There was crying. There was, holy crap, I had no idea. There was a lot of that going on.
I don't need to hold my mic. I don't need to hold my mic, but can I just say, Kat is an amazing
She
woman.
is.
She is amazing.
She is. When I told her, you know, and I've said this, I've said this to anyone willing to listen. I wrote it in the piece I wrote about Jackie. When I told her that was hard. That was the hardest thing I've ever had to do in my life, because that was something that stayed in my head under penalty of death from the time I was 15 years old. Okay, 15. Think about it. We were just talking about it. I'm 50 years old. That's 35 years of keeping something from everyone, including myself. And not once, when I told Kat at any point, did she ever make it about her. It was always, are you okay? What do we need to do to help you get through this?
Where do we go from here?
Yeah. You know, normally if you tell your wife that at age 15 you wanted to transition and couldn't because there was societal pressure on you, and all of a sudden you're having all these weird feelings about it because you saw a picture on AI that freaked you out a little bit, and your wife just goes, okay, are you okay? What do we need to do to make you okay? Not what do we need to do to make the marriage okay, right? Not what do we need to do to not talk about this? What do we need to do to put this away so we don't talk about it anymore? Are you okay? What do we do to make sure you are okay? What do you need? You know what that means? For someone who's never had that in their life.
It actually solidified the marriage.
I have never had that in my entire life from anyone, where this is this devastating thing that I was ashamed of, probably scared to tell anybody, scared that it existed, scared that it was a part of me, scared of everything, just scared, just always scared. And now it's something I can talk about freely, which is like, whoa. And why can I talk about it freely? Because I know that my partner has my back.
Yeah.
And for the most part, I feel like most people's partners do have their back. They do. Your partner is there.
Yeah.
Frankly, this is going to sound horrible, but it's the God's honest truth, and I will stand by it. If your partner's not there, you've got the wrong partner.
100%.
You've got the wrong partner.
100%.
That's it. And you know what? Kathy and I always talk about, you know, you learn a lot in your first marriage to make your second or even your third or fourth or however many you have better. Kathy and I have had this discussion. With the reason I knew 4 months in that I wanted to marry her was because I knew what I didn't want and I knew what she had.
Yeah.
I knew I loved the hell out of that woman. I still do. I love that woman more than I've loved another human being in my entire life. And every single day, I make sure I tell her that at least 32 times a day. She probably gets sick of hearing it. I don't even care. I love my wife. I am in love with my wife. My wife is the best person in my life. And I always joke about it. I always joke about it in my head because, you know, I like to joke about things and take things a little lightly. But I always say it's like, wow, it's really nice to go through the first marriage so that you can live through the second one. And I will never slag off on my ex-wife.
Yeah.
Never.
No.
You can ask Kat. I do not do that.
Yep.
But what I will say is that when you find the right person, the fit with the right person makes the fit with the wrong person so much more obvious.
Obvious. Yeah.
It's so much more obvious. It's frightening.
Yeah. I've known Rebecca 40 plus years. And actually, I gave her first kiss in the basement of this house when we were little kids.
I love that story.
Yeah, yeah. And then we went our separate ways and made our mistakes and all this kind of stuff. And I can honestly say, to your point, not the same love. You know, it's obviously not the same people, but it's the same type. I think I'm married. Rebecca's my third. We've been together 21 years now. My first two wives, in their own way, were decent human beings. You know, I mean, I obviously, I was obviously attracted to something there.
Of course.
You know, but I do honestly believe in my own mind, and this is later, after 50, you know, I do realize now that I have compared every woman and relationship in my life to Rebecca. And until I finally admitted and came back and said, you know what, you're my person. You know, and that's it. We're each other's person. She's my best friend. I say, you're my favorite person.
Yeah.
You know,
I say that to Kat all the time.
And to your point, and I give this advice ad nauseum to everyone: give your partner a 30-second hug every day. Not a sexual one. It is better if you're skin to skin, and I don't mean in a sexual way. It's just a bond. And, you know, it's our morning hug. We hug each other for 30 seconds. It just kind of aligns everything. And then we go deal with the bullshit of the day. And then we come back and, how was your day? Sucked. Okay, what's going on? How was your day? It was amazing. Oh, great. What's going on? You know?
Yeah.
And we really, and it's not, we have people go, you guys are so sickening. And I'm like, that's what I'm going for.
I tell Kat, I want to be the couple. I want to be the couple one day when we get older that we go into the home together and everyone else in the home hates us because we're that old couple that won't take their hands off each other.
That's right.
Like
that's
that.
Right.
Yeah, I want to be that couple. I readily admit I want to be that couple. I've always felt like that was the couple. That was the relationship that I wanted from the time I knew what a relationship was.
Yeah. I had a buddy who's like, man, and we're not like public displays of affection. Like, we're not huggy kissy in public. We're just, I touch her on her shoulder, small of her back. I'll lean over at dinner and give her, you've been to dinner with us. Mm-hmm. You know, we're on the boat together, you know, we'll pass each other. I'll pat her on the butt. You know, it's not a lot of like our intimacy is our intimacy. We do that at home. We know we're not on OnlyFans. I've tried, believe me.
All right.
But, you know, we're not that, but my buddy's like, man, you and Rebecca are always with each other. Doesn't that drive you crazy? And I'm like, no. He goes, I couldn't, my wife drives me crazy. I'm like, you probably ought to work on that, buddy.
Yeah. Like, but see, this is the thing, right? And it's funny because there's also the flip side, which is, you know, somebody like that says their wife drives them crazy. Does your wife really drive you crazy? Like, really? Do they really drive you crazy?
That's fair.
Are they just not always in line with you and it makes you uncomfortable? Because a lot of times it's that.
Yeah.
Right? A lot of times it's, I don't like how I have to explain myself when I'm behaving badly. Because, be honest with me, you know, we both do it. Sometimes we're shitty. Like, we are shitty.
Oh,
I could be a shitty person.
Hey, you know this is public, right?
Listen, I could be a shitty person. I am proud to say I am generally not a shitty person. I am also very capable of being one, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So is it that she calls you out on your shit? Or is it that you guys aren't compatible? See, my ex-wife and I, we just weren't compatible. Mm-hmm. And that is so obvious now. But it takes hindsight to see it.
Yeah,
I couldn't see it.
You said we were better as friends. We should have just been friends.
We should have just stayed friends.
Yeah,
like, we should have broke up and stayed friends.
Yep.
You know, I always joke. I joke about this, but it's the God's honest truth. You know, I said, Al never met my ex-wife. Al never met. Think about that, guys. Al never met my ex-wife. Like, what?
And we've been together. Vincent and I have been together a long time.
We're a cute couple. We're a cute couple.
We are well-rounded.
Nice. It was funny because one of the things, like when I started dating, I was like, I'm not going to date or be in a relationship with someone who is outside of my world anymore. And that was, you met the woman that was 2 women prior to Kat. You met her, and yeah, I mean, did it work out? Of course it didn't work out. She was crazy. But in the end, you met her. And I was like, wow, this is already different for me. Like, this is already something I'm not used to. And, when you met Kat, you met her pretty quickly. You met her very early on in my relationship with her.
And I will say, we didn't have the opportunity to meet all the women you dated. Not that you were dating 1,000 of them, but everyone you talked about to me, which is also to Rebecca, my wife, every one of them, Rebecca, eventually that evening or something, she would go, nope. 2 minutes into meeting Kat, she goes, I think you were actually hugging my wife, and Rebecca went,
yeah. Because it was obvious. It was so funny how with Kathy and I, we always say it was because we were married and we dated and we were dating with intention. We knew what we were looking for. There was just something different there. And I'm going to catch shit for saying this. I'm going to catch shit for saying this. And I you know what? At this point in my life, I just don't give a shit. I'm going to say something I've never said publicly, except to Kat. And I'm going to say it on this podcast because I just want people to understand just how different my life is now. When I got married the first time, I was standing with the officiants. We were standing there, and my ex-wife walked in the wedding dress, holding her bouquet, and she walked over, and her father took her veil off, and it was very traditional, and it was cool, and we got married, and we went about our life. And in that moment, I had a realization, right? And I rationalized the hell out of that realization. I sat there and I said, I don't feel the things you're supposed to feel on your wedding day. I was told my whole life, not just my sister being told, but I was told, when you see your wife in her wedding dress for the first time, it's going to affect you. And I really desperately wanted to be affected that way, and I wasn't. And I rationalized it as people just talking shit. Like, oh, that's what happens in the movies, that glance, these over dramatic, performative reaction to the dress photos that you see everybody taking now. The first, okay, I get it, right? I lived my whole life up until October of last year, thinking that was complete horse shit. And then I was standing there in the gazebo on that rainy day in October, and my wife
standing next to him.
He was best man Al Schultz. I was standing there, and Kat came walking down the path to the gazebo we were going to get married in, and I could barely contain myself. And I was like, and I had the moment at that exact moment where I said, holy shit, this is what I've been missing out on. This is that feeling. This is the feeling that everyone says you get that I thought was bullshit for my entire life. And here it is happening to me now. And it's a hard thing to admit because you're like, well, what the hell did I do with the prior 25 years of my life?
Figured it out.
Yeah. Right. That's the answer. But that's it, right? You figured it out. You figured out that, okay, yeah, it took me a long ass time. Okay. I didn't figure it out quickly, but I figured it out. And I think Beth figured it out too. Because when I told her I wanted a divorce, she didn't say, oh my God, I can't believe you want a divorce. What's wrong with you? Can we fix this? You know what she said? I wanted one too, and I didn't know how to bring it up.
Yeah.
We knew.
Yep.
We knew a long, long, long time before we actually got our divorce that was what we needed.
And not that it matters now, But even I've been through a lot of shit with you, bro.
You have been through more shit with me. There's only one other person in my life that's been through as much shit with me as you, and that's Megan. That's it.
Yeah,
You're the only two people. You guys have been through everything.
I would like to commend you because you, even doing all that, even figuring it all out, you never had a bad thing to say about your ex-wife.
I will never.
You didn't disrespect her.
Nope.
You didn't. I honestly wish I had done that. One of my ex-wives, I didn't care about that happening. And the other ex-wife, I was a raving lunatic. Raving. Oh, I was burn the town down. Raving. Again, anger problems, you know. She wasn't the cause of the anger. She was the trigger at that time in my life to release all that anger. It was very bad. I was not a nice person. I was not a nice person 5 years before you met me. You know, I was just not a nice person. Not a good human being at all. At all. Terrible. And I'm ashamed, and I'm so proud of who I am today. And now I get to experience the beauty of life. Now, yeah, you're divorced and everything, but what came of it? The struggles and everything you've been through, I've been able to witness. And listeners, you can do the same thing with your friends and family and loved ones and neighbors and whatever. Just look around. There's a lot of cool shit going on. It seems stressful. It seems painful.
In the moment, it usually is.
And it might even be, yeah. But if you just encourage them to figure it out, don't tell them what to do. You know what I mean? You don't want to be in control, but you want to be supportive and you want to be helpful. And it helps you because then you get to look back and go, oh, I could react badly to this, but there's no reason to. You know, it's not that bad.
There was the woman that you met before, Kathy. The reason we broke up is because I wouldn't talk bad about my ex-wife.
Yeah.
And she's like, oh, that means you clearly want to get back together with them. I said, first of all, if you paid any attention to anything I've said since the day I met you, you knew that ain't happening. Right? Do you know why Kathy doesn't care if I talk about my ex-wife? Because she knows it ain't ever going to be a thing.
Exactly.
That's why.
Exactly.
After all that time, after all the work that we had to do to untangle 20 years of marriage, the idea of going back to that in any capacity, even when I was dating, was like, no.
Yeah.
No. Would I do just about anything for her? Yes. If Beth called me right now and said she needed something, I'd be like, what do you need? How can I help?
Yeah.
I will always do that.
Yeah.
And I don't think Kat actually would be surprised by that. When I was talking to her about it one time, I said, and you know what's crazy? I said, the fact that I'm not disrespectful to her, the fact that I talk about her with a certain amount of reverence and the respect that your wife would deserve, even though she's no longer my wife. You would think that somebody dating me would go, well, this is good because he knows, he has an internal compass about stuff like this, right? I know I don't have to slag off on you the minute we're not a couple anymore. I don't have to drag you down into the gutter and beat the hell out of you because we're not a couple anymore. And yet some people seem to want that. Like, well, I don't want you to do that to me, but why won't you do it to her? Because I wouldn't do it to you either. I
was going to say, that's exactly a smart person, and Kathy is, can look at a situation like that and go, if he will help her, what would he do for me?
Anything.
That's my point. Like, not that Beth is your enemy, but like to simplify the statement, if he will help his enemy, what will he do for the person he loves? You know, I'll move the damn planet for you is what I'll do. Or die trying.
if it's within my ability, no one around me will ever have a problem, suffer, need money, need help, anything. If I am able, I am there.
My back was sore and Vincent drove 2.5 hours to sand cutting boards for me. Like, I'll be there in 3 hours. I'm like, what? Yeah, I'm on my way. I'm like, dude.
Because that's what you do, right? That's what you do.
That's what you do.
Because, you know why? And so I'll use another example.
If I'm not helping, you should probably look at it.
I have been giving away a lot of my I have a lot of camera equipment that I'm no longer using. I'm trying to downsize my camera equipment and a lot of my crafting stuff and trying to get it into a more manageable size because I just don't do that much of that stuff anymore. And I gave a laser printer and an old Cricut machine and a camera and a bunch of stuff to this one person I work with. And she goes, I really just don't understand why you're giving me so much. I said, let me tell you the God's honest truth. I said, when I started out as a maker and a woodworker, everybody and their brother gave me stuff. Everyone. Nobody took a dime from me. They wanted to help. They wanted to get me started. They had it and they didn't need it. Therefore, I had it. I said, and I always said that if I was ever in a position to do that for somebody else, I would.
I had Vincent Ferrari tools in my shop.
He does. He has literally all my tools in his shop. The only thing the only thing he doesn't have is my table saw. But yeah, it was one of those situations where it hit me one day. It's like, you don't need this stuff anymore. Keep what you need. You don't have to give it all away, but keep what you need and do something right for somebody who's just getting started. I gave a friend of mine, you met her at the wedding, Paula. She was at the wedding. I gave her one of my cameras. And she has flourished with that camera.
That's amazing, right? To see somebody grow.
And just watching her become a better photographer because she now has a camera that'll grow with her. It was wonderful. She showed me some of her work. She went to Mexico City and she brought pictures and I was like, these are absolutely incredible. And her and I sat there with Lightroom on her phone. And I said, let me just show you a couple of things here. Like, this is how I would improve this photo. This is how I would improve this one. And she goes, all right, I'm going to try it. Because, I mean, I've been doing photography since 2004. I've been doing photography a long freaking time. I know what I'm doing. I'm not an expert. I'm not a professional, but I know what I'm doing. And I sat there with her and I showed her a couple of quick edits and gave her some advice. And I watched her face as I explained it to her and she was like, and then she did the edits and she was so excited to show me the edits I suggested. And she goes, you were so right about these. This is exactly what these photos needed. I said, well, guess what? You started with a really good technical photo. You had all the mechanicals right. She goes, well, I had the mechanicals right because I finally had a camera that was worth learning how to use.
Yeah.
That girl is an amazing photographer.
Yeah.
And now she has a great camera with some great glass on it, and she's out in the world taking that camera everywhere and taking pictures with it.
That's good stuff. Yeah.
And it's like, I had it, now you have it. You know why? Because people did that for me. I'd be lax in my duties as a person if I didn't try to do that as much as possible for other people. I rarely take money for anything. Take money for anything because I don't believe in it.
Yeah. You have helped me so many times to the point that like people will say, hey, can you make me this thing? Hang on, Vincent, can we make this thing? and you've said, yeah, let me look at it, or I don't have time, or nope. And I'll be like, that's the answer.
Yeah. Sometimes the answer is not really with what you're giving me, but and sometimes the answer is maybe. Sometimes the answer is, of course, give me a few minutes. Let's see what we can do. 100%. And I don't like, I mean, if you and I are going to set up like a business relationship where I'm going to do things for you, you're going to pay me, that's different.
Of course.
There's room in the world for that. But you need something? You ain't, my dude, you got it. If I got it, you got it. And I think that when you get older, bringing it back to the man of a certain age thing, you stop thinking of things as mine and you start thinking of, how can I pass this along? I don't have kids, right? So my legacy,
well, I mean, we do.
my legacy isn't going to be children. No matter what I do, it's not going to be children. It's not going to be my cats because, I mean, they're cats. Cats don't live forever, right? What is my legacy going to be? My legacy is going to be the things I've given to other people, that I've shown other people, that I've taught other people. And I hate the phrase, the lives that I've touched, because I don't feel like I'm touching lives, but I do feel like I'm doing things for other people in a way that, hey, one day someone's going to say, Paula, where did you learn how to do photography? Or where did you learn? And she's going to go, I had someone taught me and he was good.
Yeah.
And he was very kind. With me.
I'm so glad you just said that because that's a thing I struggle with. Now, I do have daughters, but they're adults.
Mm-hmm.
They're not having children by their choices, so I struggle with, have I left this place better than I found it?
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And for you to hear you say, and not that I need to just start giving people things, but just being there, being present for people is affecting people greatly. This young lady is going to tell people, hopefully long after we're not here, this man taught me, blah, 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 blah. So the knowledge that you passed on is your legacy.
And that she's going to pass it on.
100%.
Right? And maybe
100%.
one day she's going to go, I need a new camera. And she's going to buy a new camera. And she's going to find someone who that camera will still work for. And she'll pass it along.
Wouldn't that be amazing?
And somebody else will get, a couple of clicks out of it. And maybe they'll find a hobby they love. That's what everyone did for me. Like, I mean, you're in the maker community. You understand this better than probably most of the people listening to this podcast, right? You understand that that's the maker mindset is, you said, leave it better than you found it. The old campground philosophy of leave it better than you found it. I want to leave the world better than I found it. And that doesn't mean I'm going to die tomorrow. It just means that I'm always thinking about, okay, how do I take care of myself? Because you have to put your own mask on before you can put your traveling companion's mask on,
That's
right?
good. Yeah,
so I always try to think of how can I make myself a better person? And then what can I do to make the people around me better? What makes them better? Even if it's an adjustment I need to make to myself. All right, cool.
Yeah,
maybe that's
100%.
what it is. Maybe don't be an asshole is the way I make their life better. It's okay. Then I won't be an asshole.
I spent a lot of years working on don't be an asshole.
Don't be an asshole sounds really easy.
It's not. It's not.
Really not.
My wife is, well, she won't care. My wife is 53 and she has on the back porch, sitting and she goes, it took way too long to learn how to embrace your internal don't give a fuck.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And here's another one. My David out in Kansas he explained to me one day, he goes, when you were 15 to 25, you were totally consumed with what you thought people were saying about you. When you were 25 to 45, you were stressed out, or you were working towards hoping people would say better things about you. And from 45 to 105, you realize nobody was fucking talking about you anyway.
Yeah. That's God's honest truth. It's God's honest truth.
Yeah.
Most of the time, our biggest fears are based on nothing. They're literally based on nothing. No one's talking about you.
And no disrespect, because I've had to learn this. I've had to learn that I'm just not that important.
None of
People
us are.
don't. Yeah.
None of us are.
You're not that big a deal, Al.
I'm in my mind, I'm a big deal because what else do
course.
I know? I'm me. I think about me. I know me better than anyone knows me.
I'm the most awesome person I know.
I wouldn't say awesome, but I'm definitely the most well-known in my head. That's for sure. But
well, there's two others, but
well, yeah, there's one other, at least in mine. It's awkward a lot of times, but that's a whole other conversation for a whole other day. So
I do have a quote.
Good. The last one apparently stunned everyone. So
really?
You really set a high bar with that first one. So
and weirdly, for everybody that knows, we don't start the show with this is what we're going to talk about. We started the show with, hey, I got an idea, and we started talking. So this quote, which I had written down a week now, says, "Whether you think you can or you think you can't, you're right." So if you think you can't, you're right, you can't. But if you think you can, you can.
I have learned in my life there are a lot of things going into that I thought I wasn't going to be able to do that worked out. And I never want to be the guy that says things always work themselves out, because sometimes they don't. Sometimes you die. Sometimes you get hurt. Sometimes bad things happen. That's not the same.
You got to reboot.
Yeah. But there's also a very large portion of things in the world that feel like the end of the world in the moment that really don't matter. They really don't. And, I think the benefit of us being our age is that I can look back and think of how many times in my life I thought my life was over.
Oh, yeah.
And as the one of the things that was on the wall in the oncology center It was on the bulletin board, but it was on the wall, and I remember it. It said, "You've beaten every challenge so far. Don't give up now."
That's some words right there.
And I'm like, yeah, you know what? That's a good point. That's a good point, because you know what? I have beaten everything so far because I'm still here.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
Contrary to the best efforts of the universe to give me a kick in the nuts and throw me out of the car. So.
Yeah.
So
amazing.
We will record again. Not next week. I'm going to Syracuse this coming weekend because Joe McIntyre is doing a very intimate show in Memphis, New York, not Memphis, Tennessee, Memphis, New York, in a barn for 175 people, and Kat and I have tickets. I'm so over the moon excited about this.
So for 173 other people.
Yeah, basically. There's no one else is going to be in the room. It's going to be me, Kat, and Joe McIntyre. So
that's awesome.
Maybe Sean Thomas if he's coming along. I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm so excited about this. So we're probably not going to record next weekend. We'll probably record the week after. I think we'll probably get into the rhythm where we're recording every other weekend. I think that's
cool.
Probably the most realistic rhythm.
It works.
I'm having issues getting the feed set up, so this is going to stay on YouTube for the foreseeable future. It will eventually be on podcast platforms and all that fun stuff. We're working on all that stuff. I'm working on getting Al involved in the Instagram account, which is being a complete pain in the ass. But we didn't want to wait for all that to be up and running before we record it again. I've decided for us, and I'm just dragging Al along kicking and screaming, that we're just going to record. No. And when everything else falls in place, it falls in place. But in the meantime, you will always be able to find us on YouTube at the very least.
And you can comment there, right?
You can comment there.
Comment there. Drop a question, please. We are always interested in talking to other people. That's the meaning of well-rounded. We want to talk about everything.
Like he said, we didn't plan this conversation before we had it. We just had it. So anyway, we are very happy that you guys enjoyed the first episode. Well, episode 0. This is technically episode 1, even though it's episode 2. But it's episode 1. This is episode 1. And we hope you enjoyed.
He says things like that all the time.
Definitely get in touch with us. Our social media links will be down in the description below. And we hope to see you again next time.
Everybody be well.